千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we all ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. And now I want to take a summary look at the concepts that we have talked about so far. Heaviness, lightness, root, and mastery. We can summarize these two lines with the column on the left, unaware of the Tao. It is basically people who personify lightness and restlessness. The kind of people in your life, the people you know, that you can't really trust them or rely on them. They go off, they do their own thing. They don't really think about other people. On the right side, we have aligned with the Tao. This is the kind of people who personify heaviness and quietness. These are the ones we respect and admire. Someone like that you would call, I'm so grateful for that person's presence in my life. He or she is my rock. And therefore, we aspire to be more like them. So in comparing the different kinds of people, first, I want to address the way they think. For those who are unaware, they tend to be thoughtless. Their moods are fleeting. They can change from one moment to the next. And some people may call them mercurial. They are superficial in the concerns that they express about how things look instead of how things are. In contrast to that, those who are aligned with the Tao, instead of being thoughtless, they are thoughtful. What they say, what they do, it is all thought through ahead of time. Rather than fleeting moods, they possess mental stability. And rather than superficial concerns, they can provide insights. They can look beyond the surface and see the truth beneath. So, what are these two types of people like in person? The person with lightness, the person that is restless, you can see the fidgety agitation in them. What I mean is constant foot tapping, finger drumming. This is all reflecting an unsettled mind. If you are like that sometimes, then it can help to be aware that being fidgety means you cannot be fully present and therefore will lack the presence, will lack the feeling of significance, no matter where you happen to be. And you can be seen as excessively eager, and the actions you take will be too impulsive, given to the spur of the moment. In contrast to that, the person who is aligned with the Tao will exude this dignity. They have a dignified presence. They are patient, whereas the person of lightness is overly eager. The person with gravitas understands the virtue of patience, is patient with other people and themselves. And rather than to take impulsive actions, they would take actions mindfully. And lastly, I want to comment on how the lives of these people play out. The person of lightness, a characteristic of those people would be their broken commitments. When they get into something, they are dabbling. They follow fads, which come and go. So they themselves change with the changing trends. When something is no longer popular, they turn their attention to something else. And they do this frequently. And the choices that they make follow the chaos of life. They themselves are chaotic. In contrast to that, the person who is aligned with the Tao, instead of broken commitments, they are seen as trustworthy, as possessing honor. When they decide to do something, they commit to it. They make a decision, they stick to it. They see things through. They dedicate themselves to the path that they have chosen. So the in-depth understanding that they attain becomes the opposite of faddish dabbling. And lastly, instead of chaos, they offer peace and harmony. The principled choices that they make based on foresight and the Tao lead to such a life of peaceful harmony. So because of all this, we can see the meaning of the lines from Lao Tzu. Heaviness is the root of lightness. Quietness is the master of restlessness. It is important for us to have the people of substance in our lives. They help keep the people who are insubstantial, who are trivializing everything, they keep them rooted and grounded. So again, root and mastery, we can look at it in a graphical way so that we can see the entire thing. It is all about the Tao. And on the left, we use the tree metaphor, like before, to represent the dichotomy of lightness and heaviness. In this metaphor, the above ground level represents lightness, as you can see, the realm of movements, activities, and changes. The underground in this dichotomy represents heaviness, the realm of solidity, stability, foundational strength. And that's why we say heaviness is the root of lightness. So the lightness, in terms of branches and leaves, grow from the roots and the trunk. So we can say heaviness gives rise to lightness. And if we're using construction instead of a tree as our metaphor, then we can say lightness is the additional higher levels built on top of heaviness, which is the solid foundation. And with that metaphor, we automatically know the foundation must be laid before you can build anything on top of it. Just like the root has to be present in order for the tree to grow. On the right, we can use water to represent the restless versus the quiet. So we have restless, the restlessness on top. The surface of the water is choppy. It represents mental agitation, nervous, a restless state. Below the surface, there is the quiet of the depth. The deeper you go, the quieter and clearer it gets. And therefore, Lao Tzu says, the quietness is the master of the restlessness. So when we look at the top half of this image, it represents life in the material world, and that is the mindset where most people dwell. So I'll use that symbol to represent them. And we know that this is the world of sights and sounds, distractions and temptations, activities and excitement. And sometimes people forget that the branches and leaves must trace their origin back to the root. If they lose the root in the sense of forgetting the Tao, the basis of their existence, then they feel adrift. There is an emptiness in losing sight of the trunk that connects them to the origin of their essential nature. To the right, we have the disturbance, the splashes and ripples to symbolize an agitated state of mind. So this is all about what Lao Tzu calls the five sounds, which is simply the noisiness of the material world. Initially, that noise attracts attention, but as it continues on, it increasingly becomes exhausting. Eventually, you want a break from it. Too much auditory stimulation. You just want a moment of quiet for yourself. So, looking from the left to the right, we see that the excitement, activity, the novelty of the world above ground leads to increasing fatigue, the feeling of the void, this inner satisfaction. The agitated mind says, is this all there is to life? Outwardly, what they may say is that they feel lost. They feel like they know they no longer have a sense of direction about life. They are seeking purpose and meaning, not having a whole lot of success in finding either one. They may say, I'm just spinning my wheels, or I'm going nowhere, or I'm just going around in circles. That is the cue for us to focus on the bottom half of this image, represented by the sage. The sage resides in this world of substance, solidity, and depth. To the left, the root system of the tree, symbolizing the Tao taking roots deep in the mind and in the heart, a deeply rooted spiritual foundation that we're talking about. To the right, it is the depth of water, the state of quiet clarity, and that represents the mind of the sage. It is what happens when agitation has calmed down, and this is when you say, at last, finally, I can hear myself think. That is when your mind can establish and amplify your connection to the Tao. It's like tuning in to a powerful signal of a radio station. So then what's coming through will be crystal clear and free of distortions. So the left, the roots grounded, practical, offering stability, steadiness. It is reliable and dependable. And the Tao is the nourishing mother, like the rich soil providing nutrients to the tree. From the left to the right, the depths representing deep understanding, clarity of perception, clarity of mind. And this is manifesting as measured communication. Not saying too much, but what you say is rich with meaning. So as we have already discussed, what Lao Tzu calls heaviness is the foundation. And if you are lacking of resolve in this area of life, that is when you become easily distracted. You jump from one thing to another, never settling down with anything, and you will lose the roots, lose the foundation or the basis. By putting this image together, it becomes easy to grasp. And also, as we have discussed, the quietness is the stillness of the Tao. If you're not able to quiet down because the mind is too restless, then it is inevitable that you will lose mastery. And this is why we have a cautionary note. That is really the central message from Lao Tzu, encapsulated in the last two lines. To be light is to lose one's root. To be restless is to lose one's mastery. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.